Hi everyone, good evening. My name is Sunny and I am with Riyaaz Qawwali. I am very excited um, to be doing a artist dialogue with someone that I'm excited to introduce to you um, on a project that essentially is to work within the Houston community and energize our Desi community, our creative people's community to one, feel included, and then secondly, also hopefully feel very excited about the elections that are coming up and vote whichever way you want to vote, but get out there and have your voice heard. Um, we are wanting to thank a couple of people who are behind this initiative and supporting this initiative. They include the Houston Action Team, who were our original partners when we did this sort of in 2020. And we're excited about expanding that partnership to this year and beyond. But then also, I'm very excited to uh, call out the Appy community, and I'm very appreciative of many people and many organizations that make that group up. One and actually two organizations that have been part of our work and amplifying artist voices from a long time include eMgage and OCA-Greater Houston. But that table also includes many others, including Woori Juntos and JACL, the fine folks of CHAT Chat, I believe, and many, many others. I'll promise to have a more robust list next time we do this. Um, Now, let's move into the exciting part, which is the dialogue with a talented artist, right? That's really fun. Some of you now seen some of these interviews when we've done them privately on Zoom, but I'm really excited again because of Houston in Action that we're able to take this initiative to a broader audience and this time around share it with our YouTube family. So, without further ado, I want to introduce Shaheen Rahman, who is a wonderful Houstonian because she's an artist, but also one who has been working for artists in several capacities. Uh, the first being that she sits on the board of the nonprofit Houston Arts Alliance, and then secondly, also a board member of the Islamic Art Society. She herself is a very talented artist, and I'm sure I'm missing several other amazing things she does. So let me bring her onto the platform so we can see her and hear her more. Hi, Shaheen.
Hi, Sunny. Thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate the introduction.
Yeah, of course. Well, first of all, the introduction was, I'm sure short of all that you do for us as Houstonians. But what did I leave out? That's the bigger question.
I think you covered the more important points that I'm engaged in right now at the moment. I'm a Pakistani American through Canada. And I've been in Houston for about 11 years. I'm a mom, I'm a NASA wife, I'm an artist, I'm an activist. I'm a Muslim, I'm a woman of color. So I wear a lot of different hats. And I just love all of it.
And I love the fact that your Canadian abouts are out of your way. And now you say about like like a text. I was kidding. Um, yeah, I mean, I think that your perspective, joking aside, is something that's so um, it's missing in so many forms of our society, whether it's a woman of color, whether it's a Pakistani American, whether it is um, a woman who is in the arts. So, you know, from Riaz Qawwali's perspective, and I think artists in general, we're so glad that the city of Houston is starting to see, some amazing, uh, amazing. people like you be part of these boards and representing in this way, because then, I really go back to the fact that I've grown up here in Houston. And so it's so invigorating to see somebody that looks like you, that talks like you in big positions, because that's really encouraging. So we're very happy for all the hard work that you have to do. But we're very happy that you're sitting on these, in these really important positions.
Yeah, thank you for acknowledging that. And I think it's so important for the younger and the younger generation to be able to see people that they can identify with. And we've seen that in the media recently with different shows and characters that have come up, and I think that's really important. I wish I had that when I was growing up.
I completely agree. So, speaking of making art and new art coming up, one of the very, very exciting things that's coming up for us is that we got to work with you. Shaheen is a visual artist, and you work in this beautiful medium called Ebru art. I'm pronouncing that right, I think, but you will please correct me. Um, and I think that until we had seen you work, I didn't realize how like meditative this the art making itself was. So, I mean, the first would the first question I guess I have for you is, how did you discover this art form, and where does this art form actually originate from?
Yeah, so I'm a scientist by training. And so art came into my life much later on. And it was really by accident that I stumbled onto Hebrew. I had been doing watercolors for a while. And then one of my kids at the time decided that they wanted to go and study abroad in Turkey for a semester. And so I was like, wow, that sounds wonderful. And so, in just researching about Turkey, the culture, and what is it like over there, because mom wasn't going with the kid. So, in researching all that, I just came across this art form called Ebru, and I had never heard of it. And I was like, what is that? And from the moment that I saw it, I just absolutely fell in love with it. And I started learning it from somebody here in Houston. And I was their student for 2 years, and then got to go to Turkey, actually do it there in the moment, in that environment. And it's the rest is history. I mean, I could do this for the rest of my life. It's meditative. It's just a beautiful art form. So that's how I was introduced to it. It's really because of
That's
one of my
really
kids.
phenomenal. Oh, that's really cool. I mean, that's really awesome. I feel like usually it's the other way around, right? So like we get introduced to art practices sometimes because as South Asians we were supposed to do X, Y, and Z. I love that the tables have turned on this one. That's really awesome. And so what about the art form itself? Like, can we talk about the history itself? And I'll uh, throw something that I read out, which was, from my understanding, this was Islamic art, and it's an art form, but there is also a similar thing that's practiced in China. And I don't know if it was Muslims there also creating it, but it's part of my very brief Wikipedia history. So I'm curious how somebody who practices it, if you can shed some light on the background actually of this art form.
Sure. So the concept of painting on the surface of water goes back a long way. I think it dates back to something like 7th century, and it's actually Japan, not China. So where they would take soot from burnt coal and they would just drop it on the surface of water, and that was considered to be an art practice. So the Japanese called it sumi nagashi, Sumi means ink, and nagashi is, I think it means painting on the surface of water. So the concept has been around for a very long time. This particular art form called Ebru was first discovered in about the 15th century in Central Asia. And it's believed that through the trade routes, it made its way to India, to Persia, and then finally to Turkey, where it was called Ebru. And it's actually derived from the Persian word abri. So in Persia, it was called kagaz-e abri. Kagaz means paper, and ab really means water in Persian and in Urdu and in Arabic. So that's where it originated. And once it got to Turkey, it was around the time of the Ottomans, about the end of the 15th century, beginning of the 1600s. And it really flourished because the Ottomans just loved art. It was being practiced a lot in the amongst the artists, as well as the Sufi dervish lodges in that area that we call Istanbul today. And so it flourished because the Ottoman kings would use these papers that were made using this art form to write their treaties and decrees on them. And once you make a piece, it cannot be duplicated. So each piece is really unique, one of a kind. And so that was their way of kind of preserving authenticity. And then it also, from there, spread to calligraphy. People would write Quranic verses on it. People would write poetry on it. And then it became what it's now called book arts. Eventually, it made its way into Europe. And again, there was all this trade going on back and forth. And so it's believed that some of these papers made their way into Europe, where they became very popular. And so the artists started doing it over there as well.
Yeah, I mean, so it really looks like it's sort of traveled the world itself, and then you began doing it, and we saw you doing this because essentially what's coming out on Saturday is a music video where we have collaborated together, and where we've actually captured you in your element, in your studio doing this amazing practice. I guess my question is, how do you feel like when you're doing this work, and what take us to your practice a bit?
So, okay, so you have this tray which has got this liquid in it, and you're dropping paints with the help of this brush on the surface of this water. And then you have these tools that you can use to manipulate and form different patterns and designs. So for me personally, that becomes a very meditative practice. It teaches me patience because you can't rush it. It teaches me that I don't have control over everything, which, we want so much in life. But it also teaches me to be present in the moment, to enjoy what's happening right there. And then all these things remind me of my connection with the divine, that if it wasn't for the divine, none of these things would be happening. So for me, on a very personal level, it becomes my spiritual practice. And that's where I make that connection with the divine. And historically, also, it was used that way. And to the point where there were some Sufis that would actually do ablution before they started doing this art practice. So, yeah.
Oh, wow. And I don't know if you feel this, but and several artists, um, when they're involved in spiritual art, I hear senior artists say that there is a like sort of a divine hand that's sort of also guiding this kind of stuff, the art actual that's created. And I felt that in your studio, because it's a bit of like you controlling it, but also where the pant is going to land, it's going to land. And it's, if it you drop it and it's not going to be just one blob. It's going to sort of take its own form. So I wonder if you feel that as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think you said it correctly. I can only sort of drop that paint in a general area, but where that actual drop of paint falls on the surface of water, I mean, I'm not controlling it, you know. So I want to also share that there were some Ebru artists that wouldn't, historically speaking, that would not sign their artwork because they didn't think it was theirs. They thought it came from, you know, a much higher power. So yeah, it's a humbling art form.
That's
Yes.
amazing. Yeah, and if we take that in a different direction, this there is so much art from the Islamic world that one can talk about, but it's interesting because much of this is very undiscovered. It's very new to a lot of us, um, and I'm curious about what you think about that because I feel like there are uh, major prevalent narratives of faiths, of ethnicities that are prevalent across, our wonderful country, our wonderful city. But then we look at the art and the culture. It's almost like you don't get all of that in the media. And for example, like, I didn't know about Ebru art until you were like, you should check it out. And then, immediately when we talked about it, I was like, man, it was mesmerizing. Like it's very captivating. So more broadly speaking, I'm curious if you have thoughts on what makes it into the media and culture and art that we see versus all that gets left out.
Yeah, that's a really good question, Sunny. And I feel that I think when you talk about Islamic art, I think a lot of people don't really know what that means. What is Islamic art? Okay. So in order to be able to see it in the media, we have to define it first. And it's not straightforward. It's not like, okay, this is Islamic art. This is what you see hanging and that's it. If you think about it, you know, Islam spanned across cultures, across boundaries, all the way from China to sub-Saharan Africa, Middle East, the Asian subcontinent. And it's not, the art and the people from those places are not monolithic. You know, you have so much diversity. Chinese Islamic art will look very different from African Islamic art. So wherever Islam's spread, the art of those people was, or rather, the culture and the people from those regions express themselves, you know, very differently. And so I think that's a really important thing to note. Islamic art is not something that just comes from the Middle East. No, you know, it's varied. It's as diverse as the people over there. And then secondly, I think Islamic art is kind of like it's, you know, you can't sensationalize it like you can some other aspects that you see in the media. And so, and then thirdly, I think as a Muslim community here in the US, I think we really need to be advocates. Really need to highlight and uplift that this is a really important part of our faith, our culture, our heritage, and we need to be proud of it. So I think all these things are really important when we're talking about why is Islamic art missing from, you know, the mainstream.
Yeah, I mean, and we put up a link for the Islamic Art Society that you sit on the board if you're looking for more information. I also think it's interesting that there are some aspects just that are silent. The Algerian scholar Mohammed Akoun talks about a loud Islam and a silent one, and then Dr. Ali Asani at Harvard University says that there are silenced practices. And I think both of us have experienced this, where we are practicing our art, and there are folks who are not comfortable or not even aware that this is part of an important culture, and it fits into connecting with the divine. So I'm really excited about what the video is going to look like. But before we get into the release and stuff, I'm curious what you thought about having your amazing art and then put to a soundscape of sorts, and I'm curious about how that was for you. So for everyone, I asked Dean, I was like, would you mind doing this? And she was more than generous, so we're very appreciative of it. But I'm curious, in front of our YouTube family, what were your thoughts?
Well, what took that long? Well, I mean, why did it take that long to do that? I mean, so it's a very it's a very meditative spiritual art. Okay, the Sufis practiced it, and so as part of my art practice, I often listen to Sufi music in the background. So when you asked me what I thought about this collaboration, I was like, well, why wouldn't we do something like this? I think this is so exciting, and thank you for coming up with that idea. And I'm so excited about releasing the video too.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. So my last thing is we have privately always talked about how art, whether it's visual art, dance, music, has this like amazing power because it can go into places that dialogue sometimes is uncomfortable going into. It can touch controversial topics. Um, we're 3 weeks away from important midterms, and so I'm curious about what your thoughts are. Of course, you sit on boards, and the our private dialogue has always been about you wanting to sort of empower artists into further dialogue. But I also feel like there are spaces where artists sometimes feel silenced. I feel like creatives don't feel welcome to the table. And um, in my opinion, everyone's voice should be heard November 8th, right? But I'm curious about your art practice because it is a spiritual one, just like mine is for Qawwali. But I feel like there's also a sense of a broader community. And I'm curious if you feel that way of your practice.
Yeah, and I think, okay, so like all artists, we appreciate a platform where our voice can be heard. And you had put up the link for the Islamic Art Society, and I think when I discovered this particular nonprofit organization, I think that was so automatic for me. Like, this is the perfect platform for me to be able to share my art. And because this Islamic Art Society, we basically work to promote the beauty of Islamic art and use it as a tool to bring people together, to start dialogue, to start conversations. And that's the superpower of art, is to make these connections, to foster a community. And when you think about a community, you look at what's important to that community. What are the issues that are important? What do we need to do to make that community better for all of us and for the generations to come? And so I think that's why it's so important for us to go out and vote and make our voice heard so we can make this a better place for all of us. And it's when you go out and vote, it's really not just about you. It's a much bigger picture. It's about the whole community, the whole society. You're trying to make that better. And so I would urge everybody to please go out and vote. For more information, Sunny's got, harrisvotes.com out there to get yourself educated. And really, the burden is on us to do what we can to make to make this a better place.
Well, yeah, I couldn't have said that better. I feel like uh, I'm so glad that you sit on boards, and I'm so glad that Houston is blessed to have people like you that are steering organizations, um, not just so that creatives can have livelihoods, but also that we can engage in other tables and other verticals that perhaps were not available to us. So thank you very much. A personal plug, though, for your website. We didn't want to leave this session without sharing that. There is incredible work that Shaheen has done. Actually, there is the culmination, the ending of our video is a piece that is right behind you. So but I'm curious if you could bring that closer, because we are having a hard time seeing it. So you can see that this is sort of the end product. And if you could say anything about that, yeah. Okay, this is beautiful. Um, any words to share? I know usually the artist likes to let the art speak, but I'm curious.
Yeah, I think let's leave a little bit for the video as well.
Yeah, that's right. Again, thank you so much. I'm so excited for the release of the video itself. Please check out Shaheen, the studio art by Shaheen.com, which has some amazing work. Um, I want to really thank you for being open to this collaboration, and I'm excited about the release of the video. The video will be released on our YouTube channel, and hopefully we'll both have some clips that we can share on Insta and all these other social media profiles. Again, thank you for doing this. But I'll leave you with any ending thoughts.
Well, I think thank you so much. I'm really humbled, and for allowing me this opportunity to talk about not just my art, but this very important issue of using art as a medium to get the word out, to get the vote out. I also want to thank you, Sonny. I think we need more people like you who are having these conversations and uplifting people from these different communities. So thank you so much. And, I can hardly wait to go to your concert at Asia Society.
Oh, that's right. That's right. We're doing something that's really fun at Asia Society, which is, November 12th. So after we've all voted, we can sort of relax at the Asia Society, and we will go down a rabbit hole of looking at just Amrita Pritam, an Indian poet, and Parveen Shakir, a Pakistani poet. So thanks for that call out. I very much appreciate it. And everyone, thank you so much. The video comes out on Saturday, and we're both very excited to share it with you. So we hope that you enjoy what we've made together. And please check out Shaheen's great work. Please subscribe to YouTube, Riyaaz's channel, if you find stuff worthwhile. Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you.